Time to explore what might just be the most incredible center of learning the ancient world ever produced, Nalanda.
I mean, just think about that for a second. A huge residential university pulling in the sharpest minds from all over the continent, all of this happening way, way before places like Oxford or Bologna were even a thought. That is the kind of scale we're talking about with Nalanda. At its absolute peak, we have these incredible historical accounts, like from the Chinese traveler Xuanzang, suggesting that Nalanda was home to 10,000 students. 10,000! That's basically a small city dedicated entirely to learning.
And get this, to teach all those students, there was a faculty of around 1,500 teachers. Do the math on that? It's roughly a 7-to-1 student-teacher ratio. That's not a lecture hall. That's a model built for intense debate, personal mentorship, and really deep, rigorous thinking, something modern universities would kill for.
So, what was this place really? Well, it was located in what's now Bihar in India, and its official name was Nalanda Mahavihar. But, just calling it a monastery is a massive understatement. For almost 1,000 years, it was the intellectual heartbeat of Asia. Period.
And that term, Mahavihara, really gets to the heart of it. It wasn't just about religion. Great monastery here meant a huge, sprawling campus that was all about the highest levels of education you could get in pretty much any subject that mattered.
An institution this huge doesn't just pop up overnight. It needs two things, stability and a whole lot of money. And for over 750 years, Nalanda had both, thanks to a series of powerful kings and empires who totally got its value. They basically created a sanctuary where scholars could just focus on knowledge.
And this timeline just lays it all out, doesn't it? It gets founded way back around 427 CE by a Gupta emperor. Then a couple centuries later, Emperor Harsha gifts it the entire revenue from 100 villages. Think about that. And it just keeps thriving for centuries after that under the Pala Empire, even getting money from kings as far away as Sumatra. The key takeaway here is that this was a long-term, international investment in knowledge.
Now, if you're thinking this was just a place for monks, take a look at this curriculum. I mean, wow! Of course, Buddhist philosophy was front and center, but they also studied Hindu scriptures, secular logic, grammar, and, this is crucial, they studied practical sciences that spread all over Asia. The medical knowledge taught here helped shape Ayurvedic traditions, and their work in math and astronomy laid the groundwork for discoveries far beyond their walls.
So let's try to actually picture this place. Luckily for us, that same pilgrim, Xuanzang, kept this amazing travel diary. And his description, it's just incredible. He paints this picture of a magnificent city of learning with these richly adorned towers and fairy-like turrets. It sounds like something straight out of a fantasy novel.
And Nalanda's reputation wasn't just local, it went viral, ancient world style. It became the ultimate destination. Scholars were willing to make these incredibly dangerous journeys, crossing deserts and mountains and seas, just for a shot at studying there.
And this chart really gives you a snapshot of that global appeal. We've got records of scholars coming from China, Tibet, Korea, Indonesia, and even from as far away as Persia and Turkey. This was a true melting pot of ideas, a place where the world's knowledge converged and created something new.
And the level of brain power at Nalanda, it was just staggering. We're talking about intellectual giants, people like Nagarjuna, who worked on this profound concept of emptiness, or Dharmakirti, a master of logic. And then you have scholars like Shantarikshita, who didn't just teach at Nalanda, they took what they learned and traveled, laying the very foundations of Buddhism in Tibet.
But every golden age has its twilight. And for this intellectual paradise, the end wasn't a quiet fade to black. It was a violent, catastrophic firestorm. And at the heart of that loss was its most precious treasure, the library.
The library was called Dharmaganja, and it was the stuff of legends. We're talking 3 huge buildings with these incredible names, like Ratnasagra, the Ocean of Jewels, and Ratnodati, the Sea of Jewels, which was said to be 9 stories tall. Inside, hundreds of thousands of hand-copied manuscripts, 1,000 years of human knowledge all in one place.
And then, around the year 1200, it all came to a horrifying end. Invading forces, led by a general named Bakhtiyar Khalji, ransacked the university and set it on fire. The loss was, well, it's just unimaginable.
This account, from a Tibetan monk who visited a few decades after the attack, is just heartbreaking. He described the great university as almost completely destroyed, totally abandoned, except for a handful of monks and their 90-year-old teacher hiding out in the ruins.
So for centuries, Nalanda was just gone,
buried under dirt and forgotten by most of the world. But here's the thing. You can burn buildings, but it's a lot harder to kill an idea. Its influence never truly died because the story doesn't end in the ashes. It ends in the minds of the people who carried its knowledge forward.
I mean, this quote from the Dalai Lama says it all, doesn't it? He draws a straight, unbroken line from the ancient scholarship of Nalanda to the living, breathing tradition of Tibetan Buddhism today. Its intellectual DNA survived, carried on by scholars who escaped the destruction.
And that brings us to its modern story of revival. It was rediscovered in the 1860s, dug out of the ground in the early 20th century, and is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And in the most amazing full circle moment, a brand new, modern Nalanda University opened its doors in 2014, right near the ancient site. The spirit is back.
So that leaves us with this one last big thought. It's easy to mourn what was lost when Nalanda fell, but it should also make us wonder how much of our world today, our philosophy, our science, our culture, is built on ideas that were painstakingly saved and passed down through incredible centers of learning, just like this one. That's a legacy that truly matters.